Welcome to the Voices of Black Rock. We're your hosts, Asili,
Angie,
Jordan,
Cassidy,
and John.
we are so glad you joined us.
let's get started. I'm Cassidy.
I'm Asili. We are both hosts of Voices of Black Rock.
In this episode, we will be discussing what we have learned during this awful pandemic.
Yes, I think it's good to think about what we learned. I'm glad there's some positive outcomes of it.
Our first guest is Ms. Michelle Torres, owner of Harborview Market here in Black Rock.
Then after, we will hear from Mr. Cassidy, principal of our own Black Rock School.
Stay tuned and let's reflect on what the pandemic has taught us. Today, I'm going to be interviewing Michelle Torres, who runs Harborview right down the street from our school on Harborview Ave. Michelle, thanks for being here today.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
So I'm going to start off with asking you a question. Did you add anything because of the pandemic that you think you might just keep just permanently, even after the pandemic?
Yeah, actually, a couple of changes that happened. One was that we were no longer able to have people do self-serve for their pouring of their coffee, and I think we're going to keep that so that the cups are behind the counter. The coffee gets served. Now we are back to people being allowed to fix their own, so with cream, sugar, or whatever kind of milk product they want. But the actual pouring of the coffee is going to remain behind the counter. We used to have a self-serve soup and hot buffet, and now we had to portion everything, and that's working out so much better for us. So we portion, once I make a pot of soup, we portion it all out and put it in the refrigerator, and then if people want it, we just heat it up for them, or they take them to go. That's working out. There's a lot less waste that way. We sell everything. The other way, if it didn't sell one day, you'd reheat it a little for the next day, after a day or two, and then some of it would just get too thick and we had to throw it away. So this is working out great. And same thing with the hot foods. We started, I'm not doing them right now, but during the pandemic, we, especially in March and April, we kept ourselves alive, really, with preparing hot foods and packaging them up to go, because nobody was coming into the store at all, if you recall, and that was a big push that we made to just, like I said, survive during those really 2 dark months.
Mm-hmm. And then, did you make any changes to the menu?
To the menu, I don't think so. I think the menu is pretty much the same. Can you think of anything? You're there every day. I think the menu is the same. We periodically change our menu and maybe have done that since last March one time, but I don't recall.
Was there something very specific that was hard to change or that you had to change that you didn't really like?
Well, yeah, the biggest thing was having the barriers put up and everybody wearing masks, and a lot in the very early stages, people weren't coming in at all. So it was all either curbside or deliveries. And so every order had to be taken over the phone and paid for with a credit card. So it was very labor intensive, and we were short on staff because not everybody felt comfortable working. They stayed home. So I think it was just Rick and I, Antonio, JR, Felicia for a little while. So it was just a very short staff that kept the place going, and it was very hard.
Mm-hmm. And does Harborview Market do delivery now? Or is anything besides coming in and picking it up from the store?
Yeah, we've always done delivery. but like not like a pizza delivery service where they have drivers. It's just either me or Rick that would typically make the deliveries. But we definitely did a lot more of it during the pandemic because a lot of people were not leaving their houses.
What were your biggest concerns during the pandemic in terms of your business?
Well, I worried a lot. I worried a lot about whether or not we were going to survive. I mean, everybody did. In the very early days of the pandemic, it was just very frightening, both from the standpoint of the business and just everyone's health. I mean, there were days when I would say to myself and to Rick, are we doing the right thing by being open? I mean, we just all felt so vulnerable. And my employees felt that way for a while too. And then, once a month passed and we did put, the plastic up and, had sanitizer everywhere and everybody was wearing masks. It started to come back to, people coming back to work. And, but it was a very scary time. Very scary time. The business, I think we knew pretty quickly, maybe after a month and a half or 2 months, that we were going to be okay, because I think it was in May that they allowed us to open the patio and people could actually sit out there. And then we knew summer was coming. And so, we felt pretty good that even though we had a big dip, we were going to survive. And actually, it turned out to be a really good thing that we did stay open. I mean, in hindsight, of course, as I said, going through it, it was very scary. And I wondered.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for helping us. And I just have one more question. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Just gratitude that the community supported us as much as they did. Gratitude that we survived. And if there's one takeaway that we all need from this pandemic, it's that, don't take anything for granted, because in a matter of a few days, your whole life can change. So,
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello, I'm here with Mr. Cassidy, principal of our school, Black Rock School in Bridgeport, Connecticut. So what is the pressure of being a principal in the pandemic?
I think the pressure is that you're trying to set up a place that's both safe and is human for everybody, so that people feel safe, but at the same time feel that they can connect with their teachers, or teachers can connect with their students, and students can connect with their friends, so that you have those are the two things. Is you want a place to be safe, but you also want kids to feel that they know that still the good feeling that they had about school before.
Okay. What's something that was positive about it?
One thing is, I think everybody got much better at using technology, so that we learned, the ins and outs of Teams. When you guys go into the workforce and have jobs and they ask you how to use Teams, you guys will be able to jump right on. So I think that we also learned that if necessary, like when I meet with people outside the school, that I don't always have to go to City Hall for a meeting, that we can have a quick meeting on Teams. So I think those have been the positives. And I think at the end, one positive too is that I think people even will appreciate school when we have less restrictions even more.
Okay. Is there anything you will do differently if you had to redo it again?
I don't know. I maybe when I think back, and I think just because we're still kind of in the middle of things and we haven't finished the year yet, I always think that the biggest, most important thing is to communicate with people, and that if I had to do one thing, I would communicate even more with both my parents, my students, my staff, all the time. If we could do that even more.
So most kids didn't have computers at their house, and so you guys had to like lend them computers. Was it hard to keep track of the computers?
Especially last year was super difficult because we had to figure out what we had, and then we had to figure out a way to get them signed out and a way to give them out. This year has been a little bit easier. We have Ms. Sherbeck does a dynamite job in keeping track of who has what, and our other what's called sysops. Those are like people who help out with the computers. Miss Lampreia and Mr. Hickey, they do a dynamite job in helping people get online and things like that. So Ms. Sherbeck has done a wonderful job in knowing who has what computer, who needs a computer. So in that way, I don't really deal much with computers anymore.
Okay. What is one thing you learned as a principal over this pandemic?
What did I learn? I learned, again, I think the more you communicate with people, the better. I learned that we have to remember, again, what's most important about school is like building relationships between students and teachers, and no matter what, even, we have masks and safety and all that, but school, the bottom line in school is that it's about people. And that it's still about people. We can have 60 million computers, and sometimes I feel like throwing my computer through the window. And in the end, it's about it. Any good school relies on good people and good kids and good teachers.
Okay, is there anything else you like to share with our listeners?
No, I think that in spite of all the things that we had to deal with, I'm really proud of our students this year and the dynamite job they've done. I'm proud of our staff, and I'm proud of our community because everybody worked together to put together the best experience possible for everybody involved.
Okay, thank you for letting us interview you.
Oh, no problem. Anytime. And I think this is great what you guys are doing.
See, I knew something positive would come out of this awful pandemic.
Yes, I thought it was interesting to hear about the lessons Miss Torres and Mr. Cassidy have learned.
Thanks, listeners, and remember to join us for our next episode.
The return to normal. Bye!